you can't get those hoses in through here connected to the fuel pump. There's just no way. The fuel pump is exactly the same size as this hole. You have no room for any error. Alright, so now I fished the evap line and the filler neck tube through there along with this fuel pump wiring. I've got the fuel pump sitting on a jack. Now I can just sort of raise it in place while I guide this through. So, got the tank in there, reconnected our main fuel line, got the main harness hooked in, got our pipes fished through the hole, got the crossover tube connected, so now we're about to fire it up and see what happens. Nothing. No fuel pressure. All right, let's see if there's a leak. So, you guys saw the Uber fail when the car didn't start, and I found out why. So, down inside there, you can see the red wire right here. So, I automatically assumed that the larger post on the pump went to the positive wire, instead of looking at the pump where it had a positive and a negative marked. So, I had it hooked up backwards. And I could not figure out what was going on. I ended up pulling the tank out and putting some juice on it, and I could hear it burbling. I switched it and it pumped, and so anyway, I figured out what it is. I hooked up the pump backwards, and on top of that, the tube that goes from the center right, let's see, the center line right here, so there's three. The one that goes from the center all the way around to right here, this one, it goes here and then around. This is the fuel pressure regulator. That actually popped off because stupid me didn't put a clamp on it, I'm ashamed to say. So now I've got to put everything back together and put clamps on everything, hook it up right, and then see if it'll start. Alright, got everything back together, got my clamps in place, Got my expando back on there to keep it from chafing. Clamps back on the pressure regulator. Got everything hooked in correct down there. One thing to note, this compresses. So you have to pay attention to that whenever you're cutting your lines over here. Because I had to make new lines, and this line over here, you'll see it bulges out whenever you compress it. So you just have to pay attention to that. And also these wires in here, you have to keep them in a place where they're not going to chafe. Because who knows, you might press up and down on this 5 or 6 times before you actually get it down in there and get this snap ring on there correct. So just make sure you think about that whenever you're adapting these fuel sending units. Alright, so finally got this thing in there. You have to make sure this snaps into place, and you can see the snaps into place, because this actually gets some pressure, and if this thing pops off, it will not pressurize the entire system. Until there's pressure on this line and this line, the main line gets no pressure. So then it'll just keep pumping into the crossover tube, or it'll pump into here and then just nothing will happen. So it pumps in here, it comes out here, goes to the other one, pressurizes, then it pressurizes this one, which is the pressure regulator, and then it fills the main line, which comes out right here. So until there's pressure here and on the regulator, you're not getting any pressure to the motor. So make sure this snaps in place. And then this is just a siphon tube to keep stuff from siphoning back and forth. And the orientation is, this clamps into here. So if you don't have it oriented like this, your float for the fuel level won't work. So this is another important thing. It seems like it might be in, but there's a bump right here. That bump has to be in the middle, otherwise it's not locked in place. I've got the bump lined up in the middle. One thing to be careful of is that there are 2 gaskets. There's a green one and a yellow one. They both go right there. Oh, there's a black one too. So there's 3. Yeah, there's a black one, a green one, and a yellow one. And then there's 2 yellow ones in there. All of those have to be in good condition, and they have to be in place. And then that has to go in there like that.